We're going to just go ahead and do it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, children, in addition to babies. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Driveline Academy podcast, the world's most dangerous youth baseball podcast. We lived up to that last episode. We'll keep this one cool.
We were dangerous. I don't know if we were the most dangerous, though. We've been more dangerous.
Comparative to the rest of the marketplace, though,
well,
I'm still going with most dangerous. I am your host, Devin Morgan, Director of Baseball, Driveline, founder of Driveline Academy. I'm joined, as per usual, by my brother, my partner, my co-host, Driveline Academy Assistant Director, Driveline Academy International Man of Mystery, Jeremy Techteal, who is giving us his presence today, even though he is in mourning because the Chicago Bears, the Titans of the Midway, suffered a horrific loss yesterday. That was tough.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
But we're here to give you guys the goods regardless. We'll start with the housekeeping. As per usual, axbat.com, code DL20 will get you 20% off at axbat.com. D as in...
Here, I got this one.
Uh-oh.
In honor of my Chicago Bears, defensive laps.
Oh.
DL, defensive laps, 20.
That's too close to the bone.
Yeah.
It's too close to the bone. So yeah, defensive lap 20. As our mics are dueling for the same space, we'll get you 20% off at axbet.com. You know what? And we've got one other promo that I want to be able to give you guys. So shout out to Ryan Freeman. Ryan Freeman has been one of our loyal pod listeners who I also know in real life because we've talked at ABCA. Ryan is a dude who is just like very much dialed on trying to do this thing the right way. He and I have had great conversations about what that looks like from a process and a structure position from the stuff that he's running up there. Ryan also works with a company, or I guess he runs a company that helps people develop online presences, right? Mm-hmm. So we're talking about websites, we're talking about marketing and all that type of stuff. And Ryan was kind enough to reach out and say like, hey, you guys are looking for sponsors. I got a thing. So here's the deal. If you go to strider4dl.com, you can contact Ryan's company. They will talk to you about the services they provide for website development, for marketing support. So if you're running your own business, if you have a website that you're not particularly pleased with your online platform, weirdly, most of us are just on the internet now. This stuff is super important, and Ryan is going to be able to hook you up with some expert level guidance about what that stuff looks like, because not only is he very good about trying to run a youth baseball experience that I think we would be proud of, but also this is his layer of expertise. So if you want to do business with a baseball guy who also can get you hooked up with improving the way that your business or your social media personality or whatever is presented on the net, strider4dl.com. Go talk to Ryan. He will hook you up. He's giving you discounted rates on the digital marketing and website development, but he's also tacitly acknowledging that this stuff is going to work to help us on the scholarship fund. So yes, axbet.com, code defensive laps 20. I'm really not trying to twist the knife. I'm just trying to put the code out.
I was the one who chose that code for me.
I love you. I'm not trying to twist the knife. But also, for sure, check out strider4dl.com. Talk to Ryan, and he'll be able to get you hooked up over there. What else we got? Smash Bats, the Youth Underload Smash Bat, $79. I was just answering a message in the Driveline Plus Slack this morning about a parent of a 9-year-old who had a question about a kid who's like dumping the barrel and is having like a really slow but also aggressively positive attack angle swing into the zone because they lose the barrel early and have to try to compensate. And my first question was like, were they swinging a drop 10? Are they swinging a drop 11, a drop 12? Like, what's the deal? And I think a lot of times as parents, we go like, well, what's the drill to solve that? The trickier thing to navigate is like, well, what role does the implement play? Because the implement is stressing the system of movement that can't stabilize and move that thing in space. So it's a combination of like, are you swinging the right bat? Is your kid strong enough? And both of those things can be solved. And I say that to say Youth Underload Smash Bat is a great tool to put in that kid's hands to go like, okay, if you're dumping the barrel with like a drop 10, what does it look like if we're just doing something like Youth Underload Smash? Because if they're not dropping the barrel, then it does tell you that to some degree the swing weight of the movement of the implement is kind of what's at issue. And then if you want to help improve their ability to move that object in space, in addition to some type of like gamified age-appropriate strength training, we have the Power Bat for you. We have tools to solve these problems because that's just what we try to do, right? Like I was literally, we're talking about the prototype, the pregame mini hitting plyos that we're working on. We're working on a prototype pregame mini hitting plyo. I don't know if you guys knew that, but I'm just going to throw it out there. And I was talking to our CEO about why we want to make that. And it's like the mini hitting plyo is a great tool for like pregame hitting.
Yeah.
Way better than those stupid 1 pound and 2 pound hitting plyos that I've seen out there. Just don't.
And infinitely better than like wiffle balls.
Yes. It's just a really good tool, right? The only issue, if there is one with the mini hitting plyos, is kids start to get a little bit older, and I think probably like 13, 14-ish. You run into the very good problem, which is that like if you're doing pregame hitting warm up on one side of the field, the other team is doing pregame hitting warm up on the other side of the field, and you have like lefty hitters that are hitting the ball across the field because we're pretty good at developing that. Now you run into a little bit of a safety issue. We don't want to peg kids on the other team with our training implements.
At least not publicly.
Yeah. So mini hitting plyos, the pregame mini hitting plyo idea was basically born out of exactly that, of like our very much lived experience of watching our kids just send like missile shots across a 90-foot field at the other team. So pregame mini hitting plyos are a thing we're working on. If you're interested in that, let me know on social media. You don't need to email me about this one. So Driveline Youth, Devin Morgan, you can find me that way. Driveline Academy Hitting Power Hour is popping. We've got, I think, close to 200 people that have signed up between Washington and Arizona. Hitting Power Hour sessions are also going to be opening up in Florida very soon. It's a 60-minute. You get 2 hitting sessions for free at Driveline. That sounds pretty cool. It's a programmatic hitting session where we're going to start and get you in with just like middle heaters. Let's get comfortable like trying to find barrels there. We're going to increase the challenge by then increasing velocity, showing you some spin, and then we're going to have a competition around to finish. And as for my money's worth, or for your money's worth, or for the not money that you're going to spend to actually go do the thing,
it's definitely worth the money that you're spending because it's zero.
It's definitely worth the money. That's what youth hitting training should look like, right? Like, I mean, that's the thing. That's what we're trying to introduce you guys with. And then from that, we can springboard you into a product like Driveline Academy Flex, which for kids that are local enough to come into the gym 1 to 5 times a month, it's a great way to continue to take advantage of like the test retest system, because you get to test in our biomech lab, you're working with our Driveline Academy trainers, and you're in the gym. And we've got remote training to support all the other stuff you do outside of the gym. So Driveline Academy or the Driveline Academy Flex, the Power Hour, all this stuff you can all find at drivelinebaseball.com or talk to our folks at support@drivelinebaseball.com, 425-523-4030. All right. It's been an exciting week on socials. We have some things to discuss, boys and girls. We have some things to discuss. First,
I actually saw one of these.
Yeah.
I saw your I think, and maybe this is not something to bring up on the pod, but like are you paying for Twitter Premium for your personal now? You're not.
So we upgraded the Driveline Youth account to a premium on Twitter /X. I'm not going to be shy about the fact that I didn't want to put another $7 a month in Elon's pocket.
Because for a long time, I just wasn't seeing any posts from you whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then that one post from the first one you're going to bring up came across my timeline. I was like, I wonder if that's because I knew, but I didn't know if it was the Driveline or your personal.
No, that one was on my personal, and that one just started getting out there because, I don't know. Shout out to Chad Longworth, who in response to me putting up this 2-minute video of me like ranting about how dumb the thing I'm going to tell you about is, and it's real dumb. Like I'm not bearing the lead here. It's real dumb. Chad Longworth, friend of the program, who we are going to get on the pod
at some point. Yeah.
Chad, I'm going to message you. We're going to figure it out. Chad's response was, "Angry Devin is my favorite."
I did see his response,
and then my wife, I love you very dearly, was like,
"Not her favorite."
No, she's my favorite person on the.
No, I'm saying Angry Devin is not her favorite Devin.
Oh yes. No! I try to shield her from that as much as I can. If I've learned anything in 2 decades of marriage, it's like, nobody needs to see that, and generally I don't, which is why we've been married for 20 years, because we're very happy. I'm not going to turn this into this big, celebration of finding the right person. However, my wife was like, I always look for Chad's responses because his responses to my stuff are always the best. So, honey, meet Chad. Chad, meet my wife. You guys are going to love it. So the genesis of this whole thing starts with my brother, John Lampros, who runs 2-5 Baseball. Good dude. John's been a friend of Driveline for a long time, believes in bat speed training, has used our stuff. He runs a really good program. So John found this thing called the Pickup Portal. And boys and girls, here's how the Pickup Portal works. It is targeted at youth teams who need to add players because their rosters are insolvent so they can go play tournaments. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. So if like the transfer portal in college is designed for players who are unsatisfied with their current situation and they want to move to a new school, but they presume that school is going to be like the safe landing place. Like that's where they want it to be, right? This allows youth players to basically play for a new coach or a new team almost on like a week-by-week basis.
So, point of clarification.
Yes.
Is it cost money? Does Pickup Portal cost money? If I'm 12 years old,
yeah,
can I go on there, sign up for a free account, and get picked up by somebody, or do I have to pay some amount of money?
When I looked at it before, because I wanted to fact check myself a little bit before I went and just, started ranting about stuff online. Because I typically don't try to do this.
Appreciate that.
Completely
appreciate the fact checking. Yeah.
I try to, even for any longtime listeners remember like the Joey Bats thing, right? The Joey Bats, the 10-year-old that threw.
Yeah, we got to bring that back. That should be like a once a year thing. We can have like a reading of the Joey Bats story.
For sure, because I want to get better at it, right? For anybody that doesn't recall, or if you're a newer listener, because this was early in the show, that we really should.
Come up with like an animation for it.
Joey Bats was a 10-year-old who, if I remember correctly,
not just a 10-year-old, the 10-year-old.
Yeah, well, he's Joey Bats.
Yeah,
who threw 161 pitch CG.
Yeah.
And this was being applauded by either his parent or his coach, who then wrote this kind of fancified narrative.
That was the parent who wrote the fancified narrative. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was the
parent. So here's the deal. Pickup Portal. If I sign up, let me just go through this live just to make sure I am not, maybe their website doesn't work. When I looked at it, it didn't cost money. But there's a couple layers here. The guy,
it doesn't cost money to sign up, but it does if you want to get picked up by a team. Set the
okay,
in-app purchases, one of those.
Okay, so now all right. So here's apparently how it works. There is a free membership level.
Sure.
That for 2 weeks, your player, and I want to come back to the verbiage there in a second. Anyways, your player has free access to being picked up, but then that membership expires after 2 weeks, and presumably then it looks like you're paying some type of fee.
But it doesn't state.
It doesn't say how much the fee is, at least unless I'm looking on here. And boy, look, I honestly feel a little bit weird about like flambeing somebody's business publicly.
Yeah, because so my first, like I saw the post, and before I clicked into your video, because I saw, actually the first thing I saw that popped across my timeline was Chad's post, and I was like, oh, we got an Angry Devin video. So before I looked at the video, I looked at the tweet you were responding to, or the post you were responding to, or whatever. And my first thought was like, this could be a really cool thing if adults didn't ruin it in the way I am sure they ruined this.
Sure.
Because like there are, for me as an adult, I'm not, dear listener, I'm not good, but I like to play basketball. Okay. There are definitely apps out there.
Yeah.
Where I can go onto an app and find a game going on, and I can go and join a game so that I don't just like show up at LA Fitness hoping a game is going on. Like I can join specific games.
Yep.
Maybe I make friends and I go back to these same games week after week with kids.
Yeah.
If this is an app geared towards kids trying to find other kids to play pickup baseball with that is outside of tournaments, man, I am so in on this app.
Yeah.
If this is an app designed to make tournament play / travel baseball accessible to kids who can't afford it by saying, hey, you hop on this for free,
Sure.
and we'll make sure that you can get some gameplay in for free without having to pay team costs or anything like that. I would be in. I wouldn't hate it as much. Like there would be merit to it. But of course, like that's not how this is going to work.
No. And I actually apologize for previously saying that this thing, I didn't know how much it cost. It's $20 a year for players and $50 a year for teams.
You know, that's not terrible. No. Like I understand for a player who doesn't have funds, spending $20 on this membership for the whole year, where like you're gonna get at least 40 games off of that. Like teams need enough guests that you're gonna get at least you're paying 50 cents a game.
Sure, essentially yes. I think the issues that I have with it and the reason that I got mad online is because of the secondary effect,
right?
Which is simply stated, if you have a travel team and you don't have enough bodies to go play in a tournament,
don't play in that tournament.
Right? Like don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Right.
And the reason that I got very mad online about like the base problem here, the suggestion that like this is an issue that needs to be solved, and whether I disagree that this needs to be solved. If you don't have enough bodies, don't go play.
Correct.
Like don't do that. Because of what's all the downstream stuff that comes with that, right? We're opening up a world where more youth coaches are playing kids in game that they have less understanding or knowledge of what that kid's throwing workload even looks like.
And I don't want to project on every youth coach.
Sure.
But there's a non-zero amount of youth coaches that would view a guest player that they picked up from this portal as expendable.
Well, correct.
Right. I'll throw this kid 80 pitches because like he's not on my team.
Correct.
So like I'll burn that kid's arm out so that I don't burn my 8 or whatever so that we can go play next weekend.
Yep.
And I'll just grab another player from the portal because these kids are expendable.
And how would a new parent, right, on the coaches, let's say a coach does exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is all the incentive in the world for a coach to do that because they don't have a relationship with that parent.
Yep.
Presumably they're not in their local area. You're not looking at that kid to make your team. You're not attached to that kid's parents giving you X amount of dollars to have a roster spot next year.
Right. And the only thing that would maybe stop you is other parents on the team being upset that this guest player is taking innings or whatever it is. But like, hey, if we're losing by a lot or winning by a lot, and I can make the argument that like he's eating up these innings so that I can use your kid later.
Yes,
parents aren't going to complain about that.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. Is the inverse.
I'll abuse this kid, so I don't abuse your kid.
Right. Yeah. Right. You need an innings eater, right? And when there's no longitudinal relationship between the coach and that player, that coach has all the incentive in the world to abuse that relationship. So now, we have 569 teams and 3,287 players who have signed up for this. And again, I will say it again, you know, I feel a little bit weird at like flambeing this guy's business given our platform. But you got more than 3,000 kids who are voluntarily choosing to be in this configuration, playing for a team that coach has no tie to you. And again, consider the other systemic stuff, right? And longtime listeners have heard us spout off about this infinite number of times. But you know, look, man, I'll spin that flywheel again. We don't have a system to train coaches on anything that would resemble a positive approach to dealing with children. Mm-hmm. We don't have a system to track these kids and make sure that the thing that I fear and the reason that I react emotionally doesn't occur, which is that like left hand, right hand, kid's going to get worn out by his current team coach, or it's just like or not, right? Maybe the kid isn't getting pitched at all for his current team coach, and he goes and plays for another coach, and that coach is like, "Oh, you're fresh.
Right.
Let's roll you to the limit," right? Well, that doesn't work from an understanding of acute to chronic workload either. So when kids are in jeopardy, my consideration about feeling weird about like torching this guy's business, I'm sorry. I care a lot more about the kids than I do about you trying to provide this service. And it's really sad to me. Like it's really sad that this is where we've gone. It's really sad the degree to which we have professionalized youth sports. Because I think if you pulled a lot of these coaches, and I think if you pulled a lot of the parents, they would try to talk out of both sides of their mouth on this issue. They would try to tell you that like, oh, we want to go back to the sandlot, right? We want youth baseball to be what it is, but then you're participating in this ecosystem where you've got quote unquote premium baseball players. Like look at this. Look at that kid. If that kid's 7, that one? 6?
Rough arm action.
Super rough arm action.
But yeah, clearly a very young kid. And this is what happens when the most important thing in the system is gameplay.
Yep.
Right? There's not someone out there offering free training.
No.
Like sign up for $20 a year, you can find out which places are running training, and you can hop into like a team training session or a team practice. Like, no, that doesn't exist.
And the funny thing is that like if you look on here, because they also list the teams that have signed up for this. In this world of youth baseball, youth select baseball, right? There are organizations.
Is this regional or just?
Oh, this is all over the country.
This is all over the country.
I mean, it appears very much on the East Coast right now. There's a lot less kids signed up if you look at their map, but there's a lot of organizations that kind of purport themselves to be at the top end of the food chain.
But so there's also, yes, this organization exists. Most tournament providers or larger organizations have a pool of guest players that, like, if you are going into a tournament and you have a kid that's sick or whatever, you can get, and this has happened to us a couple of times where we needed a body or two and we reached out in the tournament, had a team that just recently backed out or a couple players who reached out and inquired, and like, yeah, we've got a couple extra guest players, right? So like this company exists. However, this idea is not limited to this company.
No, it's not. But the thing I was going to say, which I think is relative to this point, is like, if you look at the teams that they have signed up, there are some large organizations that are on here. And like, you can't straddle both lines of the fence, in my mind. You can't be, well, here, I'll show you, because I'm not gonna name that team, but I'll show you. It's that name. Right.
I knew what name it was.
Yeah.
Without even looking.
You can't play both sides, right? You can't go like, well, we're the elitist of the elite, of all the wonderful adjectives you would use to come up with glorifying, prime
premium. Yeah.
Premium. Yeah. Sure. Right. But then you're soliciting for rando players. Like, that's pretty gross to me.
Yeah.
That's pretty gross to me.
Yeah. And
I think it's just highly indicative of everything that is wrong right now with where we are with youth sports. And I'm not even this isn't even a baseball thing, because I'm sure that this exists in AAU basketball. I'm sure that this exists in like select hockey and soccer. Like,
here's my take. If you have a team, you have tournaments, and you cannot get a full team to show up to tournaments, you're a bad coach.
Yeah.
Or you're running a bad program. You're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
There is a signal there that kids don't want to come and play games.
Yeah.
They're not finding whatever you're providing valuable enough to go and play games with you that weekend. Whether it's like they're going and playing for another team that weekend, and this is why you have a couple spots you need to fill, which I'm sure that one you posted, I'm sure that's a lot of what that is.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we signed up for a tournament this weekend. I have a showcase. So, like, I can't go to that tournament this weekend. Oh, we'll just hop on here and grab a couple extra players.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is pretty indicative if you have a program that is consistently needing to use guest players to fill out their roster, that you are not running a quality program, and your customers are telling you so, and you should probably listen to them.
Well, and I think you're also right about your previous point about this mitigating some of the effects of travel ball costs, of select ball costs, right? Because and they talk about it on the page here, right? Travel ball is expensive. Want to get the most out of your investment, and watch your athlete play as much as possible? Why not pick up on your off weekends? We all know there are very talented ball players who simply cannot afford to play travel ball full time. Why do you need to play games full times? Anyways, pickup portal gives an opportunity for everyone.
The idea of a full-time travel youth athlete is wild, but continue.
No, but I mean, that's where we're going.
Yeah.
Like that's where we're going. And look, you know, I'm sure that this is going to get heard by people who either are they know the company that started this, or they've registered, they've got a team that's registered on here, they play registered on here, and that this opinion is going to run afoul of those people.
Sure. Hey, those people, you either registered for a tournament knowing you didn't have enough players, or you have a bunch of players on your team who aren't going to play in games, and you should that is a signal you are getting from your players, and you should do some introspection and try to figure out where that signal is coming from and why, and solve that instead of just like band-aiding the solution by going and getting free guest players every weekend to be able to go and say we played in this tournament this weekend. Because nobody's going to look at that and be like, oh yeah, you only had 6 of your regular players.
Yeah.
People are going to oh yeah, you had 10, you had 12, whatever it was, but like yeah, half that team we had to pick up. These kids didn't even know each other's names, and like. Yeah, it's not great.
I'll read a little bit from the site. Navigating through our youngest son's travel ball journey, we found that there was a tremendous void in the community, finding pickup and guest player opportunities. Hundreds, if not thousands, of social media groups are trying to fill that void, but none of them work together. And they were so localized, you have to be part of several groups so you can cast a wide enough net to try and be successful in finding a match. What that means is just like navigating Facebook. Because this is it's all old farts like me who are largely on Facebook, and they're trying to figure this stuff out.
And again, this is, I guess where I get just eminently frustrated, because there's a signal there.
Yes.
If you are having that much trouble finding your kid a place to play, it's a pickup. So like, maybe this kid's on a team looking to pick up extra games, which like don't do that.
Yeah.
Like your team is telling you this is the amount of games we should play. You should probably listen to them. I don't understand the theory here.
Here, I got another sentence for you. You're going to love. It was very frustrating to us when our son's team took a fall season off.
How dare they?
We knew we had an opportunity to improve this bleak situation.
So we signed up for Driveline Flex training. No, that's not the rest of that sentence.
No, it's not.
And it's like you're a parent, and you're like, my kid isn't getting the opportunities he needs to because no team will take him.
Or in what they just said,
his
they
team
were
is
on
playing,
a team,
right.
But the team has decided that there was some period of time that they wanted to not play games.
Right. So and now I know better than my coach. Right.
And you said bleak situation.
Right.
That was your response to that.
Right. So it's either that or the first one of my kid wasn't good enough to make a team, or potentially like the one outlier that I will give an exception to is like we can't afford to play.
Sure, and if
travel baseball, and like I totally understand.
That, fine, I get it.
If you're in that boat, $20 a year, and being able to be picked up and play,
yep,
is really really valuable for you for $20 a year. I would add on to the end of that, you aren't like it. If your goal is to play college baseball, that's not how you're going to solve that goal. I can give you some free
high school baseball team. That's not going to solve that goal.
I can give you some. I can direct you to some free resources that we have to train and to get better for less than $20 a year that it would cost. But like, I do understand that person in that situation, this being really attractive to them.
Yeah.
Everybody else, we're just like ignoring the massive signal that we're getting, whether it's from our coach that's saying we're playing too much and we're not going to play in the fall because we should train, we should practice, we should take time off, whatever it is. We're just like, all right, so we're not going to listen to our coach. Or all the signals coming in that our kid isn't very good, and we're going to solve that by just like doubling down on playing more games instead of like asking the question of, okay, why doesn't any team want my kid?
Yeah. Why am I not getting enough playing time on the team that I'm on?
Right.
Yep.
Like, what does he have to get better at? How does he have to improve? And then doubling down on that. No, we're going to double down on just playing games. When like that's not going to solve any of the problems that you likely have if this is something that appeals to you.
It's a fundamentally ill-informed perspective. And for other than the people who are just using this to mitigate the economic costs.
Correct.
Put that to the side. This other stuff is just it's evidence of a very myopic point of view on this entire experience, what its goals are, what you're supposed to get out of it, how you improve the experience. It's ignorant of all of those things.
And like, not for nothing, kudos to whoever started this, because that's by my math probably around $100,000 in recurring revenue every year for probably very little work once the system is set up.
Yeah.
That is just coaches talking to kids, and you're just kind of maintaining the system that exists and doing some marketing for it. So like, kudos, because like that's a decent chunk of money that is made with very little amount of work just by leaning into the ill-informed segment of the population here that like will knowingly eat this up.
And look, if you don't want people like me to talk about how dangerous this is, how potentially net negative this is for kids' health, if you don't want me to do that, then you show me on this site, or you show me what part of this process involves a structured way that a coach who's picking up a pickup player is forced to ask that player or ask that player's parents what's their pitching volume in the last 3 to 6 weeks, right? You force them to do that.
Yeah.
You show me where your transactional site shows parents where they have to upload box scores. Show me that.
Well, it's crazy to me specifically, uniquely, I guess, because like I very rarely converse with a ton of people who don't give a hoot.
Sure. We'll keep
who the coach is.
Yeah.
Right? Like like that is one of the most commonly asked questions that we get from returners and from new families is, who's our coach next year? Who's our coach this year? We want to know the coach. Like the coach-athlete relationship, I don't think there's a parent in the world who would be like, no, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, I don't care who my team, but yet we have this whole thing predicated on like, I don't know who this guy is that's picking up my kid. He may scream at him for 2 hours on a field. My kid may get in the car after this tournament and say, I'm never playing baseball again.
Right.
So, and like, we're just willingly opening ourselves up to that.
Right.
If we have no idea who these coaches are and we're sending them out there. And like, to your point, there's definitely no kind of exam or test that these coaches or programs that comes along, like, hey, if you can pay $50 a year, you get access to this guy's thing. Like, there's no vetting process of like, what do you like as a coach? Are you going to scream at kids? How long have you been coaching for? What are your philosophies? Like, any of these questions aren't asked. It's just, if you can pay $50, you can do it. I'm sure, like, we could test this out. We could sign up for the thing for $50 and see what it looks like on the back end.
I am tempted to do so, because
and just tell every kid, hey, we don't have a game this weekend, but you shouldn't either.
Yeah, I mean,
or just like pitch in the power hour. Hey, we got a free product for you. Just come to one of our locations.
And if you don't want
to play a game this weekend, I got a better idea.
Right. If you don't want us to do this with our platform, then you show me on the site where coaches have to upload their certifications,
mm-hmm.
right? And let's not even talk about paid certifications like ours. Just show me the paid stuff from USA Baseball. Mm-hmm. Show me where you force coaches to give them to provide you with proof they've gone through your abuse prevention. Show me where they've gone through concussion prevention. You show me any one of those things. But you can't because it doesn't exist.
No shot it exists.
Right? No shot it exists. No shot. And today's my Uncle Dennis's birthday. In my family, best baseball players that we've ever produced in my lineage of very bad genetics.
Second best.
Yeah. I mean, legitimately. But the second best is probably my dad and my Uncle Dennis. My Uncle Dennis was a stud. My Uncle Dennis was a stud in high school, threw fuzz, barrel-chested, banger curveball, and Dennis got run into the ground as like a 14 through 16, 17-year-old player. So by the time, and my Uncle Ben, you can heat check me on this, but my understanding is by the time that he was a senior in high school, velo was way down, and like all he could throw was just kind of like junk ball because that was all he had left. And look, it was the 60s. Understanding of arm care was it's like the Stone Age, right? But when I get angry about this stuff, it's because I have definitive evidence of the cost, right? I have historical evidence of the cost in terms of my Uncle Dennis. I have anecdotal evidence between people like you who listen to this show, who send me stuff every single week about how kids get run into the ground. And now we have this new system that allows for coaches who have no fidelity in their relationship between a player and a parent getting access to those kids with no qualification, with no screening, like literally none. I'm sorry, but I can't not talk about it. I can't not get angry about it because I see what's going to happen 2, 3, 5 years from now, and it's just going to make the shit worse.
This is and I may be getting way too dark here, but this is almost like an episode of Black Mirror. Where I enjoy Black Mirror. For those of you who don't watch it, it's like they take a thing, whether it's a technological advance or just like a philosophical advancement of society, and they like really lean into the negative way it could go.
Yep.
This is like on its face, not the worst thing, like not the worst business company idea. Like, yeah, there is a large amount of people in the market that are like, I want more pickup games. This guy was like, I see an opportunity. I'm going to go create a service that does this for people.
Yep.
Nothing about that in itself is nefarious. And then people start to get access to the system, and it goes south very quickly when it's like, yeah, now we just have a bunch of youth coaches who are just like, oh, I have access to an unlimited, well, I guess it's not unlimited, a 3,000 kid portal of kids I can just run into the ground so I don't have to run my own kids into the ground.
Yep. And look, man, I'm fine with, even putting our dirty laundry out on the line, right? We had a game that was played last weekend by one of our teams where a kid went too long. Like that's I really want people to understand that, like, when we have these conversations, I'm not trying to suggest that like we run this just like panacea of youth baseball, right? We deal with this stuff, man. Like I mean, we had a kid, years ago, coached by a coach who was fired once the game was finished, and he hung a kid out there for like, what was it, 130 or 140 or something?
I think it was like 132.
Yeah. Like we've had to deal with this stuff. So I'm not trying to suggest that like our house, we don't live in a glass house, right? We deal with this exact same stuff. We're dealing with parents the same way that you are. We're dealing with coaches the same way that we are. The difference is like we see this stuff and it's like, okay, that can't happen again. That can't happen.
Yeah.
That can't happen again. And it's either a personnel issue where if that person didn't realize the mistake that they made, or was intentionally ignorant about the mistake that we made. Hey man, I can try to train you up on this once.
Right.
And if it happens twice, like, I'm sorry, it's just not going to work.
Right.
This type of behavior, treating the problem this way and seeing it as going like, well, this is a problem that the marketplace has to solve, instead of answering the other questions, just like, why do we need to solve this problem? That is the problem.
Yeah, and I think it is a really important thing to make sure that people know how much we struggle with these things.
I mean,
with clearly the way the two of us feel about these things, the resources that we have, and we still struggle with these things. Yeah. So, like, obviously, organizations, the vast majority of them that don't have our philosophies or our resources, are going to struggle with the same problem, and they're just not going to either consider it a problem, or they're just not interested in burning the calories to solve that problem. We are. So most of what you hear us say is like, we learned this from doing it the wrong way first.
Yes.
And like, we learned it from experience, and like, hey, that didn't work out. That wasn't great. And like, look, we didn't need to know that it's not great to throw a kid 130 pitches. Like, that one was like already in our onboarding that you can't do.
Yes.
But like, a lot of the other stuff, like, multiple times, and this is a thing we've learned, but like the 12 and unders now, with Little League All-Stars going much later into the year, there have been several times that we have signed up for tournaments in January, February, March, like June, July tournaments in January, February, March, with full teams. And then half that team makes the All-Star team, and now they have to choose between All-Stars and their tournament. We're Little League friendly, so we're not going to take a super heavy stake in that. And now we need to go out and get a couple guest players for our tournament this weekend, because half that team is going to play their All-Stars. We've been through this stuff.
Yes.
Right? We just said, cancel that tournament if you don't go and play. That's because we've done the other thing. We've tried to play that tournament with guest players. We have played those tournaments with guest players. We have done the pickup players thing. It's always a bad idea, right? It's always the last resort. It's never like we can always pick up guest players if we need. That's like the break glass in case of emergency.
Yes.
We're not going to send kids out there with undermanned teams. So like,
inverts that.
Right. And this, it gives you an easy out.
Yeah.
To not even have to, like, I can go out there in this setting, and like we talk about this a decent amount too, where a lot of teams 12 and under, half of that team is going to be really good. They're going to be really dedicated. Mm-hmm. The other half is going to care a lot less.
They're 12-year-olds.
They're 12-year-olds. Yeah. So like, in this configuration, I could have 6 12-year-olds who all are like good, care, they get it, and they want to win. They're competitive, and then I can just cycle through the bottom of the roster every weekend by picking up guest players.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Right.
So I want to connect some dots here, because I got a second thing I want to talk about, and I think it's all related here, right? So for anybody that hasn't seen it, in Game 1 of the World Series, Freddie Freeman comes up, base is full. They walked Mookie to get to him.
Yes, they did.
They walked Mookie to get to him. Nestor Cortez on the mound throws like 93 middle in, and Freddie first pitch just absolutely tattoos it. Takes a legitimate G-hack in a World Series game with the bases full, and isn't afraid to take a G-hack first pitch.
And my favorite line, well, yeah, it was probably my favorite line. Although it was close with the. I'm sorry, I yelled in my dad's face. Hey, sorry, Dad.
Yeah.
But they asked him like, "What were you looking for?" And he was just like, "I was looking for the heater." And then he, with a huge smile on his face, laughing his head, goes, "And I was on time."
Yeah.
Yeah, like yes, you were on time for that.
Yes,
dude.
he was. Yes, he was. And in there were a number of wonderful things that kind of came out. What Freddie said after the game and what Freddie's dad said after the game. But one of the things that Freddie's dad said was like, "I just wanted to see him make a high school team." Right. That was kind of his summation of his youth baseball experience. Was not going Freddie Freeman, future professional baseball player, storied career with 2 different franchises. Right. That wasn't what Freddie Freeman. That wasn't what his dad's intention of his career was. It was just make a high school team, and that was it. So now that we've done that, I want to read you some names. Anthony Rizzo, Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells, Carlos Rodon, Garrett Cole, John Birdie, Marcus Stroman, Tim Miza, Tommy Conley. Canley?
I think it's Conley.
Is it Conley?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me read you some other names. Chris Taylor, Daniel Hudson, Gavin Lux, Jack Flaherty, Max Muncy, and Mookie Betts. Do you know what all of those players share in common? Because it is one of the things that is considered like the gem in the crown of the 12 and under youth baseball experience.
Oh, none of them played in the Little League World Series. Or they all played in the Little League World Series.
Close. They all played in Cooperstown. Right? Because 12 and under, the Cooperstown tournament is a very, very...
I was trying to think as you were reading off the names, I was like, at first, first couple names, I was like, okay, these are all high school draftees. Oh, well, nope, now we got college guys in there.
Yeah.
And it was because you said Rodon, and I was like, okay, well, there's a college guy. And then I was like, well, it can't be like high... Like there were guys in there that didn't go to big schools. So it couldn't have been a post, like a draft thing or...
Right. So they all played in the Cooperstown tournament, right? And 12 and under baseball, I'm sure we have a ton of listeners.
You named Mookie?
Yes. Mookie went, I think, 2 years. He did, 2004, 2005. The Cooperstown tournament and 12U and under baseball is thought to be like a really big deal. And I think generally, of the people that I've talked to, there seems to be kind of two schools of thought. One is that like the Cooperstown tournament experience is cool because it feels like really old school baseball, right? Okay. Like you've got like these, it's just the vibe there is a little bit representative. It's Ruth. Yes. The vibe is very Ruthian, right? And I've talked to parents who have taken their kids out there and they really appreciate that aspect of it. This list was put together by someone who's pushing the other thing, right? And that list was put together in a picture, and somebody goes, when folks say that Cooperstown is a waste, LOL. So the suggestion you're making inherently there is that like going to play in the Cooperstown tournament as a 12 and under player is not a waste because of what it portends, right? You are framing your argument that if all of these guys, and that's just the rosters of the Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Yankees, right? If all of those kids all participated in this same event, then to suggest that going to that event is a waste is false because we'll look at the evidence. Right.
So let me ask you a question. Follow up. How many players were on that list?
Let's do some quick maths.
I was going to say like a dozen, but I think it might have been a little more than
15.
15? Okay.
9 and 6. 9 from the Yankees, 6 from the Dodgers. And I have a thought there, but
that's like a quarter of the players that are in the World Series on those rosters.
Yes.
Is there a post that has the other 3/4 of them that says they didn't play in Cooperstown?
Don't go to Cooperstown because here's 75% of the players that didn't.
Although I guess you have to control for international there.
Sure.
And there's a large percentage of international. So there's probably a pretty high percentage of like American-born players who aren't up there.
I suppose. I find it a little bit funny that my Los Angeles Dodgers, who are at the forefront of elite player development at the professional level, have markedly less players that went through Cooperstown than the Yankees do.
Well, I think it's
that's curious to me.
Two of the guys that you mentioned, Max Muncy and Chris Taylor, were both just like waiver claims.
Yes.
Or just like small trades because they were recycled big leaguers.
Correct.
And the Dodgers development machine made them better.
Yes.
Like those aren't two guys who are playing in the World Series right now because they went to Cooperstown. Yes. This is a great example of correlation versus causation.
Yes.
Where clearly whoever posted this doesn't understand the difference between the two of them.
Well, and I will tell you what this person posted.
Because I've got one for you. I have a list. It is 52 players long. It includes every single person on either World Series roster. Mm-hmm. What ties them together?
They all breathe air.
Well, but they're all over 165 pounds. So if you're over 165 pounds, congratulations.
Yeah, you just made an MLB roster. Just
if you have played baseball and are over 165 pounds, nailed it.
I mean, I'm right here. Yeah. I'm like literally right here.
Yeah, they were every one of those players played high school varsity baseball and graduated high school and is 175 pounds or heavier or 165 pounds or heavier.
Sure.
So like that's all you need to do.
Sure. So related to this idea of like correlation and causation, somebody was chirping on Instagram the other day about my 0.00262% of human beings that go on to play one game in MLB.
Sure.
And he was like, this is bad math. It's bad faith. You could say the same thing about a number of people who've, I think, like worked at Chipotle or something. And I was like, well, actually, no, you can't, because there have been way more people that work at Chipotle than there have played one single game of professional baseball.
Correct.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, that's just not, your math is bad. So anyways, this gets posted in a very popular online forum that I'm sure that some of our listeners are probably members of. So I figure if I'm going to piss off one group of people, let's just like double down. This is going to be like, the episode where Devin pisses people off. Somebody did raise the point and they go, do you think Cooperstown made those players? We did Ballpark of America in Branson, Missouri for $12K less. So first of all, if the delta between two different youth travel baseball experiences is $12K, like, my God.
Yeah.
What are we doing? But then the guy who posted this replies and he goes, nope, never uttered those words, simply showing that people love to say Cooperstown is a waste, but year after year, many of the best roll through there. Like, best relative to what, man? Relative to what? I don't know.
So Cooperstown was always interesting to me. I never went up as a kid. I shouldn't say, obviously, but I never went as a kid. And, like, it wasn't really a thing that was even on my radar until I started working in youth baseball. And then immediately I got asked that question a bunch of times. Like, are we taking teams to Cooperstown? And in all of those conversations, never one time, never once did I hear someone make the argument that we should go play there for baseball reasons or competitive reasons.
High school coaches aren't asking these questions.
It was right? Like, some of it was like, I guess I should backtrack there. Once or twice I got they need to go, like, it's the biggest tournament. They should be playing in the biggest tournament. You have to go. Right? But that wasn't specifically for baseball competitive reasons of why we need to go play in this tournament, or like, hey, it's like, these are XYZ is what your child is going to benefit from playing this. No. On the flip side of that, man, I went to Cooperstown with my dad when I was 12, 13. I will never forget that trip.
Right.
I totally understand if that is like a huge factor here in like why a bunch of teams go to Cooperstown and why that's so important. And like, I have zero argument against that and can't possibly come up with an argument against it being bad or an argument for it being bad that you're going to go to Cooperstown and have that kind of memory in Cooperstown with your parents, your family, your friends, whatever.
Sure. I do think that
you're telling yourself, because like you say, the most important part of us going all the way across the country, depending on where you live, is the social aspect or the memory building aspect. And it has nothing to do with the gameplay that you're actually going to play. Like, you could go to Cooperstown as a team, go to the museum, hang out, enjoy your time, and get a very similar experience from everything that I've been told.
Yeah.
No one sits there and talks about how, we played like 6 great games in Cooperstown. Like, there were a bunch of kids thrown in the 70s. Like, it was just like the most competitive baseball. No, all I hear about Cooperstown was how great of an overall experience it is and like the memory of Cooperstown. And it's like, I can't argue with that at all. I totally understand that. But at least we're on the same page that it is, you're not doing this for competitive reasons.
And then that's the issue that I took with the post, right? Is that the moment that you suggest that there's some competitive reason you have to be there, or that you draw this line in correlation between, what did I say, 19 players, or whatever the number is.
Right.
That,
15.
I'm sorry, 15 that did that are now playing in the World Series. The moment that you draw that line of correlation between those two things, I think you're a scumbag. I think you're a scumbag, and I think you are cultivating a message that's designed to do exactly that thing, which is make people feel compelled to go spend that money.
Yeah.
As if that has any bearing on their future. Yeah. And I think you're taking advantage of the parents of children who haven't gone through this thing and come out the other side. And I will tell you that as the parent of a kid that's playing 16U and 18U baseball this year, I'm fundamentally more experienced and knowledgeable about the outcome of it at this point than I was when he was 12. When he was 12 and when my daughter was 12, we looked at this thing. It was like, oh, well, that's just like thousands of dollars to go do that thing. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No. I recognize that, like, to your point, if you just want the baseball Hall of Fame experience, right? If you want the Cooperstown experience, that's a thing that you can do, and that's fine. But don't try to tell me that, like, just because Mookie Betts went there in 04 and 05, that if you want a Mookie Betts like career trajectory, you have to go do that.
Right.
That now you're a scumbag.
Right.
I can't read it any other way.
Yeah, and again, bringing it back to this is like and I feel like this has got to be he's knowing he's doing this because he put LOL in the message, but this is like someone very intentionally misrepresenting correlation versus causation.
Yeah.
And like you could do this in a million different ways, right? Like I said, the 175-pound one or 165 pounds or whatever. I bet that I could go through that list and there's 15 of those guys or more who played high school football.
Sure. So therefore
play high school football.
Yeah.
And baseball, like be a two-sport athlete, and that's the path.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the, like the Aaron Judge thing.
Right. Yeah. Right? I promise you, if you're all-state at football, basketball, and baseball, yeah, you have a pretty high chance of like playing in the major leagues, I would say. Like way higher than a lot of people who aren't lettering in 3 sports.
Yeah.
But also that's totally removing the fact that, like, you have to be such a premium athlete to be all-state in 3 sports that, like, yeah, you're an outlier. Your athleticism is such an outlier that, like, you're going to have an easier time getting there. And if we haven't said this a million times in the pod by now, like, most kids aren't outliers. They're an outlier for a reason. Yep. If you think your child is an outlier, you're probably not listening to this podcast.
And if you want them to develop an outlier set of tools and skills and athletic presentation, you have to work at it really, really hard.
Right.
You just, there's no path other than that. So if you listen to this and you feel some type of way about us crapping on this new business, or you feel like some type of way about us like crapping on this suggestion that people need to go to Cooperstown, understand why. We want kids to get as close to the truth as possible about how good they can be in this game. And that's it. Like, if I could distill Academy down to one thing, it's just that. And I feel like I was talking to somebody at, the high school football game on Friday. Like, if I'm going to take checks from parents, I feel like if I'm going to do that and not feel gross about it, I have to be really clear about what the deliverable is, right? And the deliverable, for me, can't be something as short-sighted as we're going to play some games, we're going to try to win as many of them we can. It can't be that.
Right.
I can't sleep at night if that's what it is. It has to be something different. So the genesis of Academy is development, because that's the thing. That's the transformational deliverable of our program, is you understand how to get better at something. That's all we're trying to teach. We are trying to teach a process that is going to give you results in baseball, but if you understand process, you understand how it can be applied outside of those very specific lanes.
And if you're this guy posting this message, there's a handful of different demographics of parents or baseball people that are going to read that and take it different ways, right? Like, you have the one that's going to read it and be like us. You have the one that's going to read it and be like, well, see, I knew going to Cooperstown was right.
We got to go to Cooperstown this summer.
The one that kills me is the people that are reading this and legitimately read this and say, if I can't afford to take my son to Cooperstown, he's not going to be able to accomplish his dream.
Yep.
And then it's either, well, my son can't accomplish his dream because I can't afford to send him to Cooperstown, and now that kid is being sent the message that, like, you can't ever make it in baseball because your parents couldn't afford the $12,000 it would take to send you to Cooperstown when you were 12.
Yeah.
And we're losing a potential quality varsity baseball player at 12 because we're telling the signal that he's being sent or his parents are being sent is like, it's not even worth playing high school baseball if you can't afford to go into Cooperstown at 12. Right. Or that parent does the other thing and says, I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to pick up extra shifts at work. I'm going to work overtime. I'm going to do whatever I can to get my kid to Cooperstown. And then that kid is 16, and Cooperstown did not help him get any closer to his goal. It did not. It has not helped him with recruiting. It has not made him better at baseball. And like there was a period of time where they pushed all of their chips into that, and didn't get what they needed out of that investment. And like that's a really difficult thing for most families to be able to like spend that kind of money on something and not get the return that you're promised by some guy on Twitter that says like, if you want to play in the World Series, you got to start at the what is it, Cooperstown World Series, whatever Cooperstown event is called. Like, there are parents that see that and either tell their kid, "You're done playing baseball because I can't afford to go to this," or "I'm going to do whatever I can to help you go to this." When like, no, just like save that money and spend it in better ways. Or don't spend it and look at our free resources online to train.
I was checking Instagram this morning, having breakfast, and I see this Kobe clip on my timeline. I know we talk about Kobe all the time, right? And he's doing this like talking head interview, and he's like, well, what's the number one ingredient for like being successful as a professional basketball player? And he's just like, it's love. And it's like, it's the first, it's just like, what do you need to live? Oh, I need to breathe air. What do you need to be successful? You need to love it.
Yeah. A common thing that coaches will instill in pickup players on their team.
The signal's really clear. It's like the Joey Votto thing that we talked about a while ago. Like when Joey Votto is reflecting back on his career as someone who went to the proverbial mountaintop, complete space alien outcome, right? When Travis Snyder is looking back at it, and I want to have Travis back on. And I think we should check out what they're doing at 3aathletics.com. Joey Votto has like an emotionally resolved end to his baseball career. He goes, I just wasn't good enough anymore, and I respect the thing too much, so I'm just going to be done. And in his reflecting back on post on social media, he's talking about how much he loved these experiences of failing at like the world's biggest stage. Mm-hmm. And he loved people like rooting for him to fail. Hey man, you have to love this thing at a really, really deep level to love that. And I think, when we have Travis back on, I think that's a thing that I want to dig deeper with him about is like, how much did his prior experience in baseball, experience he had with coaches, trauma that he had to navigate, inhibit his ability to continue to love it?
Yeah.
So if love is truly like this inflection point that kind of decides how good you can possibly be because it decides how much you're willing to go through, why doesn't the experience revolve around that?
Well, to double down on that, there's no way of, like what you brought up, like having the emotional ending to the career.
Yeah.
Right? There's no way to not end your career emotionally. There's no way to play baseball without emotions.
Right.
It's just what emotion are you choosing? Are you going to choose love, or are you going to choose like anger, jealousy, resentment?
Right.
Like those types of things. Unfortunately, that is way more common. If that is the path that we're choosing, is the anger side, the jealousy, like my coach didn't develop me enough, and I'm angry because I don't feel like I got the most out of my baseball career because I didn't develop enough, I wasn't coached well enough, whatever it is. There's the jealousy of like Johnny down the street got to go to Cooperstown because his parents could afford it, and Johnny went and played college baseball, and I didn't because my parents couldn't afford it.
Yep.
Right, and there's like a lot of different emotions that can come with ending that. And like the only one that 100% of the time is the right emotion is love. Well, it's to like love the thing and like end it with you still loving the thing.
Well, consider the opposite end of what Freddie Freeman just did, right? The guy on the opposite end of that is Nestor Cortez. Nestor Cortez hadn't pitched in almost 2 months. Am I remembering that correctly?
I want to say it was like September 14th. It was like 6 weeks.
Yeah, so he's on the shelf for a while. He gets brought into a game, in a tie ball game, to try to maintain that position, right? Gives up a first pitch granny to a dude who's like on one leg. The only thing that's going to bring Nelson Cortez back, because at this point he's got enough money.
Yeah. Although I don't know that he signed a big contract, but
but he's probably got enough, right? The thing that's going to bring him back, the thing that's going to have him propel himself to want to get better in this offseason and continue to provide value to that franchise, one of the most storied franchises in baseball, in sports period, is how much he loves it.
Well, I'll add another layer into that, because Nestor has the I don't know if it's a positive or a negative, but he does play in a city that has the most rabid fan base in the world. And like, if you don't love what you do, man, nothing is worth that punishment. That like, hey man, stay off all social media. Don't go out on the street.
Yeah.
Like, you get back and they're flying back.
Yep.
Don't take the train.
Yeah.
Don't make sure you're like, people don't know who you are. Maybe shave the mustache so you're unrecognizable, right? Like, he's going to get that. Next time he pitches at Yankee Stadium, I bet he gets booed.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you have to love it if you're willing to endure that.
Yeah. And I think there's this thing sometimes from fans who think that, like, and I'm not discounting this, right? I'm sure that there are some professional athletes or professional baseball players who can simultaneously like hate baseball, but it's a job, right? And they just kind of treat it that way. And I suppose that that's one path.
Hey, so many people hate their jobs. There's a lot of baseball players who are right in line with that.
Right.
One of them might rhyme with Schmanthony Schmendon.
Right. Oh,
who has been verbal about that.
Yeah, he's the poster child for that, right? So I think sometimes we see those guys that present that way, the Schmanthony Schmendons, right? And they go, well, you know, all professional athletes are super jaded, yada, yada. But again, let's bring this back to our area of expertise in youth baseball and trying to get kids playing for as long as possible. 0.00262% of them are going to play professional. So that's not really like the actual thing we need to solve for here, right? The thing we need to solve for is at large young men who have the experience in team sports and through competition and through athletics that it provides ideally positive benefits to the way that they present for the rest of their lives, right? That's the thing that we're trying to solve for. So we don't necessarily need to worry about solving for, again, the Kobe Bryant thing, right? You need to love it to the point that like Nestor Cortez is going to come back and be an impact player for the Yankees this year. That's not necessarily the thing we need to solve for. The thing, though, is that like solving for that love to get you to want to play high school baseball and ideally play it for 4 years and get the most out of that last stage of athletics that are open and accessible to everybody. Solving for that is the same way that you solve for Nestor Cortez. It's the same path.
Yeah.
You get the same outcome. Whether they go on to play pro ball, who cares? Who cares? The thing we just want them to do is have enough time under tension in this game that it gives them the benefit of the experience. That's all we're trying to solve for. So when we see things like this pickup portal crap that incentivize coaches to be playing kids on teams that they have no fidelity in their relationship with, and again, if you want to show me where you're forcing coaches to ask these questions of kids as part of this pickup portal process, I'm welcome to see it. Like I'm welcome to see it. When you're drawing this correlation line between spending thousands and thousands of dollars to go play in Cooperstown, and well, you look at all these big leaguers, I'm sorry that I can't not talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't not, because you're missing the forest for the effing trees. The thing that's important for these kids is just to love the thing and love the experience that they have and feel safe. 12 and under, that's what youth baseball should be about. And both of these things we've talked about today, to me, are just like very on its face evidence that we have lost the flipping thread. Like we've just lost it.
Yeah, and 99% of the time, it is 100% of the time. It's impossible to keep baseball safe.
The game isn't safe.
Right, the game's not safe. Yep. Right, like you are going to lose. You're going to get your heart ripped out. It's going to be devastating. I don't care if you play this game for a summer or 30 years. Like, it's going to happen at least once to you.
Yep.
If not trillions of times, right? I might have a kid on my team who at least once a week tells me he wants to quit baseball.
Yep.
He might be related to you.
Yep.
I've had people be like, is he serious? No, he's not serious.
No, but to quote Eric Kozak, who, indie ball grinder for 7 years, if you don't hate baseball and want to quit at least once a week, are you even trying?
Right. This is where, the cliche, there's a very fine line between love and hate.
Yep.
Like, if you love the thing that much, you're going to go through all 7 stages of grief when it doesn't go well.
Yep.
Because you loved the thing and it didn't, you feel a loss from the thing you loved. The important thing is that, like, you get through the 7 stages of grief, hopefully quickly, and the thing you love is still there. If the thing you love is predicated on a coach, an experience like a Cooperstown, just playing games for whoever you can on weekends or whatever, you are leaving it extremely vulnerable to just get ripped away, and then the thing you love isn't there, and all you have is like the devastation.
Yep. I mean, I've and again as a parent, like, I've been sidecar for this stuff. Like, I mean, I will never forget. When Danny was 9, and I put him in playing against 10 and 11s in our league championship game to close it out. And we had a dropped pop fly to my left fielder and a drop pop fly to my second baseman that would have gotten us out of the game and would have given us the win. Both of those things happened. He was 9. He did his job, right? He did his stuff. He competed the way that he always does, just, throw nasty stuff in the zone. And the other children on the field affected the outcome that he was trying to drive towards. And both of those things happened, and he got really upset, and I had to pull him out of the game, and we ended up losing that game. And for his 9-year-old self, if I could go back in time and ask him, that was probably the most devastating loss that he had ever experienced, right?
I don't think so. I think there's one that's more devastating.
At 9?
Not at 9.
Oh, no, I mean at that time.
At that time.
Yeah, at that time. At that time, that would have been the most devastating loss that he had experienced. I'm pretty sure we were at the park hitting the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Because even at 9, if I had done anything right, it was to keep the game in the way that he and I engaged with it safe. The game outcome isn't going to be safe, but it could still be a safe thing for he and I to do together, right? And loving it that much to come back to the field to want to hit the next day only prepared him for another devastating loss that happened, 2 years ago, right? When we were down in Oregon.
Yeah, that's and my team still talks about it.
Yeah,
that it's 4 years now.
Yep,
and that is without question the hardest loss that they've gone through.
Yep,
and they still talk about it. And everyone had to drive back from Portland that night, myself included, just feeling like we let one go.
Yep,
like it was right there. We were so much better, and we didn't execute, and that sucks.
Yep,
and we had practice the next day.
Yep,
and it's like that. You turn it that quickly, and I wouldn't have been that shocked if a bunch of those kids were just like, it's too soon. I'm not going to show up to practice.
Yep.
I almost didn't go for work today because the Bears lost on a Hail Mary yesterday. Okay. And I'm a grown ass adult. So I understand that.
Yeah.
And that's on us to create this environment that they know is safe and loving and they can come back to even after a devastating loss like that.
Yep.
A lot of the things that happened in that loss were avoidable.
Yeah.
And a coach that wasn't me, maybe that next practice is brutal.
Oh, you could have just worn the kids out.
Right.
Yep.
Look at, these are all the things that we didn't do right, and today we're gonna focus on every single one of them and learn how to win and what we did wrong. And is nope. I mean, I told him you were standing there before the game, our championship game that year, and you gave your speech first, which is about them being sharks smelling blood in the water.
Yep.
And I gave my speech of, hey, tomorrow I'm gonna love you the same.
Yep.
I don't care if we win or lose. I'm going to love you the same tomorrow.
Yep.
So let's go out there and compete to the best of our ability. And nothing is going to change. We're all going to have practice tomorrow. We're going to love each other the same.
Yep.
So what could possibly be at stake here? if it's not our love for each other and ourselves, like literally what could be at stake here?
Yeah. What are the stakes?
And like a lot of other teams, there's a lot at stake because like that piece is not always going to be there at every turn. And like, that's where, to tie a bow on this, like doing the pickup thing, you literally never get that.
No, there's
never a point where that it's just always, well, I got to do this all over again with a new team next weekend. And like, I guess maybe the best like happy story that could come from this is a kid jumping in with a team and like making a bunch of friends really quickly and then being like, hey, we're going to bring you in. Like, you're going to be a new guy on the team now instead of just a guest player. And like, I hope that happens, and I hope it happens somewhat frequently.
Yeah.
Kind of don't think it does.
Yeah.
But that would be a nice, happy like ending to the story, I guess, silver lining. But like way too often, if that's what everything is predicated on, is just like gameplay, there's not the underlying relationship and love that's going to be able to get you past a really, truly devastating loss.
Correct.
Because not every loss is devastating. There's sometimes you just get your butts kicked and you're like, oh, well,
yeah,
wasn't our day.
Yep. I realize that like, we've what we got an hour 20 into this. All this stuff is going to continue ad nauseum because we can't stop it. We don't have the footprint yet.
We don't have enough fingers to cover all the holes in the dam.
Yeah. And it's just only going to continue this way. And I guess, it just makes me feel like, number one, very, very privileged that you guys continue to tune in for this thing. And look, man, I don't, I'm not trying to say that this is your responsibility, because it's not yours responsibility. It's not our responsibility. But the only thing I can tell you is just like, in so much as you have the opportunity to share your opinion on this stuff with other people, to share this episode with other people, to share, like Jeremy said, some of the free resources that we put out with the intention of doing nothing other than good, right? If you can, you have the opportunity to expand our specific area of effect and give these parents and coaches something to consider in addition when they're evaluating this type of stuff. That's the only thing I can ask for you. It's just like, if you have the opportunity to hit the like button on stuff, to subscribe to the YouTube, to do that stuff in 2024, that stuff is beneficial, because the more that you guys do that, the more that our area of effect gets out, because the algorithm goes, it's
a real thing. Like the algorithm is like we were talking about. You popped up in my now. You who follow many of the same people as I do.
Yeah.
Are locationally, like geographically located very close to each other.
Yep.
Our phones are located very close to each other a lot of the time, which I don't know if that makes a week. And I don't ever see any of the stuff that you post unless I go to your account to look at it.
Yeah.
Except for this one. Whereas it got enough traction that now it's going to pop up on my timeline.
Yeah.
That I actually like. This may surprise our listeners, but like I have very little youth stuff on my timeline, like youth baseball stuff. Yeah. It's just like, I guess I don't follow those people. I don't follow a lot of people, but like to have something youth related pop up, it means that it got a lot of traction, and that's why it's popping up on my timeline, because the algorithm's like, a lot of people like you like this.
Yes.
Not you specifically.
Yep. And that's how it works.
Otherwise, we'd show you all of Devin's stuff. But like,
yeah. I mean, and that's how it works. And like, when I post stuff, when Angry Devin gets a hold of the controls back here, and he's just like, send it. Don't be afraid to send it. Send it. Send it. And I get texts from like people in professional baseball. That's when I know that like it's gotten out a little bit. So like so shout out to my friend who's a former manager of a professional baseball team that texted me this weekend. I was just like, okay, like it's getting out. So, I think, Jeremy has a great rant from episodes and episodes again, that like, if you feel like you're crazy, like understand that like we're crazy too. And we're crazy right with you.
That was almost a year ago. Because that was right after ABCA.
Yeah, man, it was. Yeah, because we had talked to Dave.
Shout out to Dave.
Be like Dave. The more that you can help us amplify this stuff, I think it's just going to be the slow march to helping more and more people understand that there are definitive detrimental effects to children when it's done this way.
Yeah, everybody agrees. There's like, I'm so convinced that like in any rational person, and even irrational people who just love their kids, wouldn't disagree with anything we are saying.
Yeah.
It's just really difficult to do something different than everybody else.
Yes.
And they need help doing that.
Yep. So I guess I'll say this. If you need help doing that, and we can help, Driveline Youth on Twitter, Driveline Youth on Instagram, Driveline Youth on Facebook, like, talk to us, ask us questions, because that's really all we can do, honestly, is like, we wrote the book to try to put this information out there. We did the Skills to Scale practice book before that for really cheap to try to put this information out there. Youth Baseball Development Certification is out there to try to put, like, it's all designed to serve the same purpose.
Yeah.
We are trying to thread a very, very thin line where we, like, acknowledge the importance of development in youth baseball and the systems that are going to get you there, but also bundle that with an approach that is, like, focused on positivity and love. That's the only way I can do it, man. Like, I can't do it any other way, because it's the only way that like resonates for me. It's just the only path.
It makes and you know this, but it makes my blood boil when I see the other thing.
I know. Because
it's like, I know the choices that you had, and I know probably why you made this choice as a coach to do this, and, like, it makes me so angry.
Yep. Yeah.
Every time I see it, it's like...
Because you know the cost.
Yeah.
Right? Because you know the cost, you understand what's happening on the back half, you understand the long tail effect of, like, this not so slow march towards professionalization of youth sport.
Yeah.
Like, this is where we're going. And again, no national governing body that has any teeth, no national ministry of sport. So, like, it's up to the pirates and the mercenaries. And in our pirate flag, it just revolves around two very specific things.
Yeah. And every time I see any of this, I just feel so bad for those kids.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah. So,
being misled by adults that they trust.
Yeah. Yeah. So everything's terrible. Happy Monday. You got anything else?
I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, it's the Driveline Youth Baseball Bummer Power Hour.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's where the Power Hour thing came from, because it was the Bummer Power Hour.
Bummer Power Hour.
Boy, the mysteries of my rapidly decaying mind.
The hitting Power Hour are much better.
Yeah,
I'd much rather attend the hitting Power Hour than listen to the Bummer Power Hour.
Yeah, way for sure. Better.
Yeah, way less of a bummer.
So I don't have any.
Unlike the Bummer Power Hour, though, the hitting Power Hour is actually 60 minutes and it's capped at 60.
Yeah, it's capped at 60. You don't have to listen to us just blather ad nauseum. Man,
you can, because if you do bring your kid to Washington for the Power Hour, there's a pretty high chance you'll see one of the two of us.
Yeah, we'll be around. So we can rap. Yeah, that's funny. I didn't really connect the dots between the Youth Baseball Bummer Power Hour and the hitting Power Hour until right now. Boy, when I get Alzheimer's for real, it's going to be an adventure. So sorry, I know my wife doesn't like it when I make the Alzheimer's jokes because my grandfather. Yeah. Anyways, hey man, I'm just gonna
gallows humor.
Yeah, that's right. Close to death every day, marching forward. We're just gonna full on just like drive this thing right into the.
Hey, we can't control it, so we might as well laugh about it.
I mean, yes. So hey, Driveline Youth on Twitter or on X. One of these days, I'm gonna get around. Driveline Youth on Instagram.
I'm pretty sure if you go to twitter.com,
it auto forwards anyways. Fine. I still go to twitter.com because even though I know the auto forward is going to happen because whatever. Yeah. This just might compel me to finally like get the premium on my Twitter account, because I can't tell you guys that like it's important for you to share and help us amplify this message and expand the footprint if I'm not willing to spend like the $7 a month. Fair. And I don't want to give Elon that $7, but it's sunk cost at this point. I might as well just do it until he completely burns Twitter down and everybody's going to flee to some new social channel. Yeah,
he won't notice the $7 a month, whether it's there or not.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah.
Like, that's a deal with the devil. I'm okay making that deal of like I'll give you $7 a month if I can expand the reach and.
Yeah. And so we're gonna do that. I'm just gonna do it. I've held off for long because yeah. Anyways, whatever. I'm just going to put down, and we'll put $84 towards helping more people understand this message. And if you guys have the opportunity to amplify in any way, shape, or form, massively appreciated.
And the good news for Chad is that you with a premium subscription, much likelier to be Angry Devin.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're going to get both barrels.
You're going to get people that don't normally see your content that see your content.
Yeah.
And
so, hi, my name is Devin. Professionally angry about things online sometimes.
Here to ruin your day.
You're here to ruin your day. Happy Monday. Jeremy had a fantastic idea for some content that we're going to see on socials, ideally in the next week or so. We've got a lot of our kids that have made the jump from like average 12 or 13-year-old kids to like now hitting balls 90 at like 14, 15, 16. So we're going to put out some biomech skeletons to kind of show those progress. If that's something you guys want us to talk about the pod and get into deeper on like the biomechanical changes of longitudinal development, let us know. Chad Longworth, I'm coming for you. We're going to get you on the pod. He is Jeremy. I'm Devin. We're down by law. Catch you next time. Thanks. Bye.